welcome to Unfiltered Women's Voices with Stella Kyoko and myself, Delany. Very excited to be here on episode 2.
Ew, amazing.
And so we're coming to you from opposite sides of the world. I'm here in Thailand and you are
in London, UK. Yes.
very cosmopolitan, very tropical, woohoo,
Yeah.
and very cosmopolitan.
Very much
Even
so.
our clothing actually really matches that. I've got the hippie gown on this evening.
Yeah. Oh no, it's turning cold. It's supposed to be summer, but they've told us it's going to be cold here.
Oh.
This summer is going to be a cold summer, and all we have to do is think about how to exit.
Yeah. Get to
How
somewhere
to
warmer.
run. Yeah.
Thailand is calling you.
Yes, I can see that. I feel that. I feel that.
Oh.
Yeah.
So today we have a theme, and our theme is perfection. Speaking about not perfect weather, the imperfection of weather.
Yeah.
But perfection, it's such a double-edged sword, is it not, my friend?
It is. And it all depends on, I think, where you're coming from. And but it's important to really understand what it is and what it means to many of us.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because one of the dictionary meanings of it is to move to a place of faultlessness.
Flawless.
Faultless, flawless. It's like, doesn't really gel with even being a human being.
I know. That's what I was thinking about. How can you be a human being who's flawless?
Yeah. And that striving for something can be so good because it can be a real motivator of, I want to be greater. I want to be better. I want to be the best woman I can. I want to be the greatest contribution I can and the greatest version of myself. Paradoxically, it can then turn into stress, anxiety, fear, and turn into something that stops you. Have you ever had experience with it?
Oh, very much so. Very much. I grew up as a perfectionist, really. That's it.
Yeah.
I worked, especially if you're working, I think, as a people pleaser, then you're going to be a perfectionist. So it's going to just devolve or evolve into that because I wanted to please my parents. I was so desperate to please my mom. I loved her so much, and it was always being the firstborn. It was always important to please, and it drove me into being a perfectionist. And it took me into zones that I didn't realize. I thought it was always good for me until I came to, for me, the change came when I had children.
Yeah.
And I realized after the first child, I realized this cannot continue. Everything had to be precise. I thought I can't drive kids mad. I can't do this. I just, at that point, I realized there's another human being and it's a child. They can't be with these benchmarks all the time. They
Yeah.
need to be left free. They need to be left loose. You can still create your boundaries of operation to be there for things that you need to be there for, but you have to let children be children. And at that point, that's when I sat down with myself and realized this is not actually good. And it hasn't been good, but I hadn't picked up on how bad it was in my body. I was always tense.
Yeah.
You get tense. Yes. When it doesn't work out, oh, it's so much beating up of yourself. You get in a corner, you blame yourself so much. You go all the way in self-blame, and it isn't good for you, not at all.
Yeah.
So that's my angle of it. I don't know what your experience is.
Yeah. Probably a bit different. in that I guess there were definitely certain areas of perfectionism, but I fought against that a lot. I was quite a radical, and like one of the first things I did when I was 16 was become a hippie. Like it was, and I was someone who excelled at school and all of that, but I was also someone who was having a fag down the back. Yeah, and more
Get
than
me.
I was a wild one, yeah. So I had this incongruency going on right from early
Yeah.
years of being able to do a lot of stuff and
Mm.
rebelling against it at the same time.
Oh,
So
yeah.
yeah, and it led to a heap of complexity in how I moved through the world, because I would pretend it didn't matter. Yeah. And I would try and lower benchmarks for myself, right? And at the
Mm.
same time, sneakily, with an ego that was wanting to do well, wanting to fit, wanting
Mm.
to excel, but not wanting to excel at the same time. For me, it was always this duality of wanting to
Yeah.
excel and create amazing things and not wanting to be separate from everyone, because I very much felt separate from people. I think that would have
Wow.
been that, autistic
Wait.
ADHD stuff, going on as well. So my
Yeah.
experience was not as cut and dried. I was like this complicated little duality machine.
That must have been really complicated. It's quite unique running the two aspects in your life.
Yeah. It was
Yeah.
exhausting. It was really exhausting and extremely confusing. For me, I found the world quite confusing, because being quite sensitive and perceiving things. I don't know if you're like this, but where people would be saying stuff and I would just be like, that's not what they really think. And
Mm.
so, and I was reared with, as many of us were, this is the way the world is.
Mhm.
And I'm like, oh, is it?
Mhm.
Okay. And that's not what it was like at all.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
all of those things running. So I found it very, very confusing. And because I was someone who didn't choose the safe path, I was constantly, I think of a huge amount of my life running on adrenaline. Yeah. Never safe. Never safe. Got to
Is
keep
it?
moving. Got to keep moving. Do you relate to that?
Not really. I think I played safe. And I also saw a lot of protection around me. I saw a lot of safety that people were or would be there for me. But I think that's where I come into buying into making sure those people can be there for me by pleasing them.
Yeah, yeah,
So yes, and I love the care, and it came from all parties. Being in Africa, you have your mom, you have your aunties, you have your uncles and grandparents. All of them played a part, and all of them had a keen eye on me being the eldest grandchild, eldest daughter. So it was always everybody's eyes on you, and I knew it, and I noticed it, or I perceived it. I perceived everybody's looking at me. I better be good. And that's how I went on university, everything to study everything and just be in line, really, not getting out of line. No way. That's not me. I had to play
yeah,
by the script,
yeah, yeah,
by
yeah.
the script. And it's after a while that you start to say, what is that?
Mm,
And it plays for you whatever role it plays for you, and it keeps you safe. But then you realize that there's a part of the world, there's a part of your life that cannot go with that.
yeah,
And yes, you need to go out and question things and question beliefs, and that's my whole journey to becoming what I am becoming. It's more of when I start to question everything that I thought I
Yeah.
knew. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. Being somewhere, yeah, and that has been always in my radar. From a young child, I used to argue with adults all the time, way beyond my years, and it would drive some people insane. Some people found it amusing, I think, but it would drive people insane because they would be saying one thing and I would be able to actually tell them why that was incorrect.
Such a brave girl. That's so good. I can imagine you.
But it was terrifying at the same time. Like people used to think that I was just this, but inside I was like, ah. But and so even though we had these incredibly disparate experiences, I feel like there's a similarity in the way of realizing that imperfections are actually, when you get curious about them, they are places where you can find actual abilities and strengths for a start.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. And yes, yes. And and I think we also find ourselves in them. There's something in you that is, yes, that imperfection is something to do with you, and it makes you that creative thing that has been created in the world, because I think anything creative could have different angles, and it's all about our perception. Even what we think is imperfect, it's just a perception of what we think,
Yeah.
but it has a purpose and it has where it can serve. So that little girl had service in those questioning and boarding up, and there was something you could serve you. Sometimes when a child comes to you, they help, and when they question you, it's helpful. It helps you to actually go back and rethink what you're talking about. But at times, especially for us, when we are raised, you're not supposed to talk to others, speak out
Yeah.
loudly. So
Yeah.
in the process, that means even the child's wisdom is shut down. They can't express it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I know for me, like because I could get that feeling off people. And I was shown it many times. Sometimes I didn't listen to that and I was put into not good situations. Yeah. But that ability to read and go, this is not a good person. This is not a good situation. Get out. And those kind of abilities. And when you get that shut down because everybody around just going, no, they're great, they're good. You shut your own awareness down. You shut your own deep, deep knowing of what is safe for you and what is good for you. And that ends up affecting many, many people. So in adulthood, people are still unsure of, believing in themselves, believing that they have the ability and to be able to trust in themselves and their choices and their perceptions too. And so often people then, go close. I think for me too, I was given a massive gift when I began working with people labeled disabled, people living with disabilities. And I worked with a lot of people with the label of intellectual disability. And I found, wow, I think I said it last week, amazing creative insights. But there was a dance workshop that I attended, and it was with a dance company from London. And there was a guy who had no legs, and there was somebody else with a disability in the cast, and the rest of them were fully able-bodied dancers, and they were amazing. They were really amazing. We went to a workshop with them. And so I'm in this workshop with a mix of people without the label of disabled and a whole bunch of people who live with that label. And my God, it was an incredible experience. And that I was already doing performing arts with people from that sector. But this workshop just opened me up to a whole other level of awareness of we are so often shut into this box, Stella, that
Yeah.
like we're
Yeah.
talking about. And when we step out of that box and we allow curiosity, and we, instead of looking from the perception of something is this way, something has to look like this to be perfect, to be correct, to be right, or
Yeah. Yeah.
valuable. When we go beyond that, we get to actually experience whole other realities, ways of being, and perceptions of how to move and how you can move and how a gesture can be a communication. And this to me is the beauty of the imperfections.
Yes, yes, that's a great experience. Wow.
Yeah, really
Wow. Yeah.
amazing. Many, many miracles, many, many moments of like, oh, wow.
Wow.
And I got to I got to a point where I was, because I ran a lot of community projects, and I ran one and I made it so there were, I think, only 5 people from the disability community, and the rest were mainstream community. And oh, it was so good because those 5 people had been doing performing arts with me for a number of years, and there was a guy who was vision impaired, completely blind, actually. And he did things like take up photography, as well as having an intellectual disability. Like just amazing, right? And we did this project, and people, because it was 25 people in the group, and so there were 20 people not from that community, and I was getting phone calls from people weeping, going, I can't believe, like, they are better than me at this. Like, and I said, well, they've been working for 4 years. Like, I would hope they're better than you, but
Yeah.
there's perception about, especially learning disabilities, that there is, we even put perfectionism around what is intelligent and what is able to, what is valued. And my experience just has shown me that all of those things are really not as solid as we think they are.
No, no, they are not. They are not. Oh, that's an amazing experience that you have had, especially with people that, yeah, that are labeled disabled, because those, are you going to see them as imperfect because that's how you see them? But actually, going into another level is looking at everybody as a spiritual being, and that means they are perfect in everything, and really integrating the word perception. You're just perceiving them. You're
Yeah,
just perceiving that boldness of that little girl as whatever it is, and you label it that way. Or she's this, she's that. But no, she's expressive. And if you look at it, there's something good about her expression of
yeah,
whatever she is, she's giving to the world.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so interesting because I'm interested too, because like you live in a city and you've been there for quite a long time now, haven't you? Have you lived
Yeah.
in London for a long time?
Yeah, quite. About 18 years now.
Yeah. And so cities are places where there's a lot around perfection, particularly like how women look, how men look too, but it's even more pressure on women. And
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
field you work in and everything, I'm interested to hear about perfectionism, how that plays out, and how do you traverse that?
That's a good question. And definitely it's so much about, I think, also personalities, and you have to really observe your personality, because it's my personality could be one that could really be tangled into that. That is extreme, that is obvious, that is external. Yes, in the cities, yes, how people are positioning themselves. Yes, how everybody's angled and looking smart, and you might find yourself that you're not ready to go out in 30 minutes, in 40 minutes, because you're trying hard to get somewhere. And until you look at yourself and really ease up and just say, no way, I have to stop this. I have to be who I am. I have to present myself the way I I feel comfortable with and not drive myself crazy. Because even meeting moms, even if you have little children, meeting moms might require you to do a lot of work because you're going to meet them and you need to look perfect. And then you need to speak perfectly about your children and how you handle your children. Everything is positioned and it can drive you crazy until you say, let me let go of everything of this and
Yeah,
just
yeah.
yeah, like I told you, the kids, you have to smarten them up. And at some point, you just say, no way, this has to stop. They better be who they are because I am who I am. But what about them? Do I know how they want to express themselves? Or do
Yeah.
I have to fix them to express themselves the way I want? Or should I give them the space to just be themselves? And I also get a chance to discover who they are if I give them that space rather than if I really put those boundaries of their operation. Yeah.
Yeah. It's that, because I love to get dressed up. I'm not someone who wants to get dressed up all the time though. If I was in London, I really, yeah,
Good.
I'd want to be looking good. But it's really funny the way, like if we could all relax more and be a bit more real. Yeah.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
and just acknowledge the that there's a lot of work goes in to look like this, hello. And that it's okay not to, in Thailand here, this cracks me up. There's something, I don't know what it is, but a lot of Thai people will wear things that look like pajamas, like satin shorts and shirts with Mickey
Yeah.
Mouse on them
Yeah.
and stuff like this, right? And I just love it. It just cracks me up, because, and there'll be mum, dad, and two or three kids on a scooter going. It's like,
Let's video unique picture.
it's just like, I'll have to take some shots and share them
Yeah.
on social media because I just absolutely, it's an aspect of it that I love. It just
Yeah.
cracks me.
Yeah.
I went and had lunch the other day and this whole family walk in satin pajamas. Like,
This
it's
is that is so much of the opposite of what would happen in my house. That's
totally, it's
I would drive everyone to try to smarten up and be sensible. That's so good. That's really, really good.
it
Yeah.
is. It's that, it's that thing. And there really isn't anything wrong with tarting up, like, and dressing up. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I don't want anyone thinking that. I really do enjoy dressing
Yeah,
up.
me too. Me
But
too.
but I also really like to just be quite feral, like I
I'd say personally, I love style. I love style very much.
I shared
And
a room with you. I know that. I saw your wardrobe.
so in the end, I want to always at times I have to say, can you just keep it low? Like, because sometimes I feel like I'm too serious with it. And then I just say, can you just keep it low? I have to tell myself, can you just stop this now? Okay. Because at times it's holding you back and it's not releasing you, but that's who I am. Even my daughter has to ask at times, Mom, where are you going? I just say, nowhere. How come you dressed up like that?
Oh, I love it.
And I
I
have to just say, you know, your mom, this is how I dress up.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But I noticed with a lot of your clothes, like you're actually very comfortable though. Like it's style, but you're not walking around looking like you're uncomfortable in what you're
No,
wearing.
no, I don't like anything that is just um uneasy on me. Like,
Yeah,
no, I don't like that
yeah,
because then I become uncomfortable. So I have to make decisions to make sure that something is comfortable and yeah, I would love it. And for me, I always like classics, things that are not, I don't wear as in style per se, Not really. I don't do that because then it's hard work. I just have to wear something that I love and it's
Yeah.
timeless. That's what I always want to do. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So what would be your main tips, like transforming for those people that are perfectionists, that have that? And because perfectionism can lead to so many things. Like you said, it had the flip side of you being a people pleaser as well. So what are some of your best ways and things that you have developed to transform perfectionism into a positive force? If it's there, because you can't just get rid of it completely. So what's that transformation for you to a positive force?
Yeah, that's a good question. And actually I did interviews on excellence, and perfectionism came in, and I think we actually is one of those contributors for that particular issue. We see that for me personally, I had to sit down with myself, and especially the fact that I was going into entrepreneurship, I realized that I can't be an entrepreneur and be a perfectionist. That was a fact I had to really put on the table. And I also thought I cannot be interested at some point at the beginning in my children being who they are and be a perfectionist. So I had those cut moments where perfectionism would have to be dealt with. I had to
Yeah.
sit down with them, but also I had to, yes, sit down with myself, start to unpack its original source, understanding where it's coming from, and learn to tell myself to be comfortable. Every time I was imperfect, I had to sit down and really just say, it's okay. It's like nursing that little, going back to that little child and now telling her that that mistake or that error, that way they portray themselves is okay. It's okay to be to do that error, to do that. They can continue to strive to be the best, but
Mhm.
it's okay to have mistakes here and there. So it was always actually sitting down with myself because it was hard to release what I have been for a very long time. I
Absolutely.
just had to work with myself and be patient with myself, be kind to myself as I progressed to just be. I was eager to be because I used to admire people who are just so loose. And I think I need a part of that. So it's a part integration. Bring that part and bring it to yourself and create something. Now that you are old enough, you can recreate yourself into the being you want to be. Yeah.
I really like it. I really, that thing of sitting with yourself
Hmm.
and talking with yourself, that has been such a huge boon to me because I've created some big things in the world and in my life, and it has always been for others, had to be for others. I could be seen and be a part of it, but that impetus always had to be for others. And I think this time doing business in the way I'm doing, even though the business is all about contributing to others, it's done from a very different place. And it's done truly with me at the center and not down the bottom of the list. And this has created a really different experience, which is very similar to what you're talking about, which is that coming back to myself all the time and acknowledging those bits, those moments, being willing to take imperfect action, because I've got so many projects and things that have sat hidden because they weren't good enough or I wasn't willing to put them out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See.
And so now I watch myself, and I did a post on my Facebook page saying, you may have noticed that we are evolving and creating this business in front of your very eyes.
Yeah, that's so good.
It's
Yes.
been the most effective way for me to operate, to go, even I will look at a post, and I really want people who are like scared of posting on social media, but they want to do their business and all of that. If I make a post and I go back and read it and I don't like what I've written, or I go, oh, that could be done better, it's called edit, and I change it
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
because I can.
Yes. Yeah.
It's okay to, in
Yes.
fact. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Or you
Yeah.
can repost it
Yeah.
and do a better job. Like this thing, like, where is it that, oh, like there's no hard and fast rule of, if you don't get it right, then that's blown. And I think for many of us, that has been a bit of a case where we go, well, we tried and we didn't do it.
Yeah.
So it's 15 years on. I have one client who, it was a project, it was 50, I think 15 years or something. And she's actually doing it now
Yeah. It's good.
because she had
Very good.
tried it and it hadn't worked. And as the years passed, her creativity was eroding and eroding and eroding. You have, yeah, that, like, imperfect action.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's the best way to get to know yourself. Somehow, that's something else I want to say, Stella, is this is an adventure, and your body is your home. Yeah, on
Yes. An
adventure,
adventure is a good
right?
word. Yes. Yeah.
Your body is your home,
Yes.
and who you are
Yeah.
is a work in progress.
Yes.
And when
Yes.
we approach this like
Yeah.
kids, with curiosity and fun,
Yeah.
and and give yourself a break like you would your friend or your
Yeah.
kid, or whoever, definitely strangers, probably, like, you'll give them a break, you'll give, if we start to treat ourselves like we treat others well, if
Yeah.
we do that with ourselves, where, it just changes everything, and it does become an adventure.
Fantastic. I like the word adventure. And I think if we can allow ourselves definitely to see it as an adventure or exploration or experiment, you would cut yourself a bit a bit loose here and be in the adventure of really discovering. Because a lot of women tell you how they like to go on lives, but they can't dare because what if I lose my words? What if I stammer? What if I do? They need it to be scripted. They need it to be perfect. And that held me so much. I couldn't do lives until I told myself, no, accept the imperfection. And that released me and gave me the freedom. It was me who had to release myself to just start being and living truly and
Love.
fully. Yeah, because every time we are holding on to these things, we can't live fully. We can't.
And I love that. Like, that is one of my definitions of greatness, is living fully,
Hmm.
experiencing it
The same
fully.
applies to Stella Woman. That's so good.
I love it.
She has to be able to live truly and fully, like
Yeah, fully
without that.
embodied. Yeah, not about
Truly,
perfection.
truly.
We are
Yeah.
coming to our time to say goodbye. I am
Yeah.
going to suggest next week we talk about creativity. Creative and creativity have been words that have been popping up a lot today.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
let
That
us.
is so awesome. I didn't even realize how expression would go into perfection and now creativity. And you're just in flow with all of these topics. And actually they are stringing together. They are really integrated.
They
Yeah.
are exciting, very
That
exciting.
is us. That is us. Thank you, everyone, for being with us to rise to the greatness, to become your stellar woman. We
Amen.
are here for you, and I hope you're able to join us next time as we continue to find and discover ourselves through these unfiltered women's voices that we are holding. Thank you very my good friend. Thank you so much. Until next time, bye bye from us, Delany and Stella. Bye bye. Bye bye.